morning. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. We're here Saturday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. here at McShane's. Today we have our co-host, Allan Lengel, who's here with me.
Live.
And we also have the host of the show, Adolph Mongo, who is appearing remotely. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
And we also have our co-host, Jim Nardone, who is also joining us remotely. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Detroit in Black and White.
So before we get started, there's two things that I want to say. One, if you are watching this show, we want to thank you for watching. We want you to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. If you can join us 3 days of the week, usually Wednesday, Friday evenings from 8:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday mornings from 10 to 11. I also want to say that all of the viewers know that I had a movement, and that movement was for me to be elected as judge as the 36th District Court. I did not prevail. However, the movement continues. I did graciously congratulate those people who won, but I let people know, one, I did not start off in this journey to be punked out, okay? That's not who I am. Two, I'm sending a message that, you know what, you let the people decide who they want. Even though the deck of cards were stacked against me, I did it anyway. I got a lot of positive feedback, and I'm looking forward to continuing the movement. So thank you, everybody. Congratulations to those that were able to prevail, and I'm back. I wasn't here on Wednesday because I had surgery the day after the election. Yeah.
Welcome back. We had not a surprising week. I must say, I told you so back in February when I wrote a piece for Deadline Detroit saying that the Democrats are in trouble with black voters. To come to find out, they was in trouble with everybody. They spent so much time courting Republicans that they forgot to court their own base, and their own base turned against them. We haven't seen this kind of election since Nixon ran over McGovern.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are. And we're going to have to live with the consequences. With a Republican Senate, probably a Republican House, and you got a madman sitting up. We're going to be taking the oath of office with a lot of mad people around him.
It's more than a trifecta with the Supreme Court. I mean, we really have a man with no rails. I mean, the only hope is there are some judges, federal judges who will still do the right thing, but ultimately we can't rely on the Supreme Court to do the right thing anymore.
Well, you know what? My position is this. The people have spoken and they've decided what was right. And so we know that when you go into a campaign like that, somebody's going to prevail and somebody is not. And we have to live with it. And so you could walk away as a sore loser, pissed off, but what good is that going to do? We have a United States Constitution, right? We have
we had one.
We still have one. We have a three-part government, and guess what? We have the people here in the United States. And so, we could take this approach that is gloom and doom, but guess what? I went to bed Tuesday night and I woke up Wednesday morning and I almost did my regular routine, except for I had to go and have surgery on my mouth. But the bottom line is this: life goes on. And so we got 4 more years. We don't know what's going to happen. I am not clairvoyant. I don't know what's going to happen. People change all the time. People change, and people make promises. There's a lot of things that people say on their campaign trail to get people to say, okay, you're my person. There are some things that he's going to be able to do, and there are some things that he's not going to be able to do. So,
I'm not looking forward to. We're going into another race of campaigning with the mayor's race looming large, and we got two women contenders out there already, Santil Jenkins and Council President Mary Chatfield. Do you think Detroit is ready to elect a woman in that seat?
I do. I think Detroit is different. I think that we're ready for a woman to run the city of Detroit. But
I'm not saying are we ready. I'm saying will people put their sexism aside and say, okay, I can vote for her?
You know what? I don't know if people would put their sexism aside because we saw what happened on Tuesday. But was it sexism? Was it a combination of things? Listen, it
was a trifecta. It was a trifecta. One, she wasn't likable. Two, she was Joe Biden was an albatross on her back. And three, it was that people wasn't ready for a woman in some circles. And four, she just didn't excite the base. She got 20 million. Well, trifecta, quadruple, whatever. But the bottom line is that she was a perfect storm to get slaughtered, and that's what they did. Took her and slaughtered all the way down.
Do you remember me saying when this happened, I was like, why would you? First of all, it was a lose-lose situation anyway, in my opinion. But why would you 90 days before the election throw somebody out there like that? Why?
Yeah, no choice.
Why? Yeah, they didn't have a choice. There was no process, as far as I'm concerned, it smacked democracy in its face. There was no process. You just tell the people this is who the elected person, the nominee is going to be. Some people were very offended by that, and people can choose to ignore it if they want to. But
they've been picking. The backroom deal's been going on forever. They stacked the deck on and letting a states like New Hampshire and Iowa pick the nominees. That's the same bullshit. It's no different than what they did. Now the Democratic leadership knew a long time ago that something was wrong with Grandpa, and they did nothing. That's why Trump was beating him up on that AIDS thing. Trump almost ate himself, but Trump said this guy is losing it, etc. And Jim Clyburn and the Democratic National Committee and Nancy Pelosi, they kept propping him up until they couldn't prop him up anymore. So that's why we got Kamala.
I think the problem was, he screwed the party. He should have gone out on his own. He really, in the end, got forced out, where they really just started to really pressure him hard. And look, and at that point, you could have had a primary that would have. You could have had something at the convention.
I think he would have. I think regardless, he would have done something better. He would have probably did better than what Harris done. We got Jason Roe, a political strategist, Republican. Congratulations on kicking your candidate kicked Curtis Hertel's behind.
Yeah, we did all right.
You painted him a liberal. Curtis Hertel is far from a liberal. You know that wasn't true. You know he's just as conservative as your guy.
Well, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, they about the same.
He still comes from one of the most powerful political families in Michigan, with a father who was Speaker of the House, a brother who was a senator, a uncle who.
But they've been dead. But he's been. But his daddy's been dead over a decade. His uncle, who was a congressman, been out of Congress for 20 years or so. John, who was chair of his other uncle, was chair of the Wayne County and Macomb County Commission. No longer had a state fair to fuck up, so they couldn't help it.
Yeah, but he's still Gretchen's top political ally, and she put her shoulder behind the wheel for him. He raised a ton of money. The last fundraising quarter, he raised $2.5 million. I think when it's all said and done, he's probably going to have raised about $8 million. That puts him, at the top tier of
Well, the Democrats raised $1 billion, and what the fuck did they do with it? They didn't put it in a ground game. They gave it to CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, you name it. The media got it and did nothing. They did not have no ground game.
Well, and I can
That's
tell
where
you
you
that
spend your money.
I was worried about, well, with the resources, with the infrastructure Democrats historically have. Tom probably walked precincts 5 days a week. Not something I'd recommend, because when you're in a congressional seat, there's so many people, you can't walk your way to victory. So to me, that's wasted time. I'd rather have him making fundraising calls. But I bring this up because he's on doors all the time, so he can see the literature being left behind by other people walking, and he hardly ever saw any Democratic literature. And when he did, once in a while, he'd see a slate door hanger. So that meant that the Harris campaign wasn't walking, the Hertel campaign wasn't walking. There was some targeted, like Angela Whitmer's race was in that overlap. Didn't see anything from them. And you had, Rogers campaign walking, the Barrett campaign walking. You had America PAC, you had the Trump 47 team, and you had America Works and Americans for Prosperity. So when you take the Michigan 7th congressional district, on the right, there were probably 9 different organizations that were hitting doors, and we saw almost nothing on the Democratic side.
What do you make of the close race between Slotkin and Rogers? She was ahead by quite a bit. They started pouring money into that campaign. He started focusing his campaign more on negative ads. They were talking about one ad that really bothered me was when they said she helped fund foreign EV company that then turned around and laid off. And we're talking about Stellantis, which happens to be based in, I guess, Switzerland, but is really one of the big 3 here. Yeah. But they were effective ads.
When you saw her responding with EV ads and starting to say, I don't care what kind of car you drive,
right.
To me, that was the proof that those attacks, because I got some industry people reached out to me a year ago wanting to make the EV thing a big issue. And I was skeptical it could turn into a big issue. And they bought some space on some statewide polling that I was doing. And when it came back, I was kind of surprised at the hostility to EVs generally. And I think
how do you, with Elon Musk though, uniting with Trump, who's Mr. EV, how was he able to pull that off with Trump being very anti-EV, really push on that?
Again, what are they anti? It's not the existence of electric vehicles. It's mandates on the auto industry requiring them to sell a certain number of units in order to allow the autos to sell combustible engine cars, which is exactly what people. And the reality is, mostly elites that want to buy electric vehicles. Most working class people don't want those vehicles. They're not practical. If you've got a large family and you've got to squire them about town, you don't want to do it in some 4-seat little electric thing. You want a regular car that is dependable.
And they not gonna have any charging stations in the neighborhoods. You know that. Detroit gonna get.
Well, and working class people typically have to travel further to work.
Right.
Wealthy people work from home or live close to their office. And so if you're somebody who has to travel 30 miles and, after however many round trips, you got to go then charge this thing, like it becomes a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I have a neighbor and he indicated he has an electric vehicle. And he asked me, Vanessa, where can I go? We live downtown because we live downtown. Where can I go and charge my vehicle? So I gave him a couple of places. But even with that, I mean, there's so few charging stations. And so I'm one of those people who I like my gas car. I like my gas car. I've had a few people try to talk me into getting an electric vehicle. I'm not on board with that yet. I'm just not. And to think about a home where you will have to get that charging station put in your home, that could be costly as well. And God forbid something happens.
Well, right? When you talk about Elon Musk and Tesla, that started the EV thing. Prius, nobody saw a Prius and said, "Oh, I got to have one of those." That was really the first car that we saw out here that was, a hybrid, but getting there.
Right.
It's not all that sexy to look at. He rolls out the Tesla. That thing looks futuristic and cool, and it was a status symbol more than it was I care about climate change. Right. It was I want that cool car. And so I think he created a product that people want to buy, whereas the big three are being compelled to produce cars that, one, nobody wants anyway, but they're not even that sexy. Like, you know, an electric car that you're like, yeah, I want to drive that thing. You see a Tesla, you want to drive that thing. And that's what it comes back to. A consumer economy, you got to create things that people want to buy. We are telling people you must, to save the world, you must drive these ugly cars that aren't very practical.
Do you think Elon Musk has hurt himself by aligning with Trump so closely, where a lot of the people buying Tesla are perhaps more liberal, or do you see that?
I think they're beginning with his acquisition of Twitter. I think there's a lot of people, and when you see what his market share has been, it's been slowly eroding. I think as he brings some of these new products that he's talked about and preview online, maybe some of that changes. But he may, for the other half of the country, get them to take a second look at some of these cars because of him. So maybe that offsets. I mean, we'll see.
Some of those people that voted can't afford his car. They can't afford it.
Can't afford it. Like he said, people, look, we live in Detroit. We love status. Okay? We love status. And so some people are going to support that. I don't know if he's going to really lose a lot of credibility, but I want to go back to your point. People do not like being told what to do. I am one of them. Don't tell me what to do.
That's the best way to get me.
Well, I'm going to tell you what to do right now. We got to take a break. And we'll be back. I'm telling you, that's what we got to do.
I want to talk about the women.
Nice segue.
When we get back.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
I love teaching others because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a ninth grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
All right, we're back in Detroit in black and white. If you're watching, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. If you want to comment, feel free to comment. We're back with Allan Lengel, Adolph Mongo, Jim Nardone, and our guest co-host, Jason Roe.
All right. So, Jason, we wanted to get back. We want to get back to the Alyssa Slotkin case, and then I want to get way back to the women issue in Detroit and the campaign.
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at Trump winning, and I believe if Trump won the state by 2 or more, Mike Rogers would be a U.S. senator. And it's important to recognize in the last 50 years we've had now with this race 20 U.S. Senate races, and Republicans have won one, and that was in 1994, so that was a wave election. So we've struggled to win Senate seats. I think 2 things account for Rogers' loss. One, Slotkin's an incredible fundraiser. She raised a ton of money early. She was defining herself in her primary. Her primary threat in Bill Harper wasn't a very significant threat. Rogers actually had a fairly competitive race, wasn't really raising tons of money. So he had to navigate a primary where Alyssa got to play above hers. She got to define herself. He never truly defined himself. And then when the money did come in from Washington, about $25 million, came in a little bit late, and it's soft money. And soft money spends at about 1/3 of what candidate money does when you buy TV ads. So $1 in soft money is 33 cents.
Okay, what?
Candidates, a candidate rate, it's called the lowest view rate. And so whatever in a day part whatever ad is running at the cheapest rate. The candidate money. She got a lot of bang for her buck. She got to define herself. So Rogers had to play catch up there. And then the second part is Dearborn. Donald Trump won Dearborn. Alyssa Slotkin won Dearborn. I think two things account for that. When Osama at the Arab American News basically said both of them suck, we're endorsing, a vacuum was created. The Trump campaign stepped into that vacuum and they went after those voters. And I didn't see the Harris campaign.
Yeah, they did a horrible job with their community.
And some of the stuff, if you send somebody,
they were afraid what Trump previously would have been afraid in previous campaigns to go into the Arab community and really go deep into the Black community. He was breaking down walls and doing that. But I'll say I want to address the woman issue. Is that
let me finish if I can on the Dearborn.
I'm sorry.
So Rogers, I don't think went after the Arab vote in the same. It's a little harder for a Senate candidate to penetrate in that compressed window like a presidential can.
Right.
And a president can do a lot more than one senator. And don't forget, he was an FBI agent.
Right.
The Muslim community is not exactly in love with the FBI after 9/11.
He downplayed his FBI. He'd say they started to eventually say he was in law enforcement. They never said, and even in the Republican Party, the FBI has
it's all that deep state. We had two deep state candidates. Right?
Yes, the Republican Party, and the FBI has become a toxic word. They've talked about dismantling. I think Michael Flynn has talked about getting rid of. They're definitely going to fire Christopher Wray day one. But I was going to say, we talk about can a woman look? We've had two women governors in Michigan, so it's an impossibility of that. The question becomes, can you get to that next level? We talk about Jewish. We've got Josh Shapiro, who's a Jewish governor, and a friend of mine said, well, maybe he'll be a good candidate in 2028. And someone said, they're never electing a Jew. The Jew's going to be the last thing. So the question is the ceiling there, but also the toxic, to use the phrase, toxic masculinity here is that Donald Trump had Kid Rock, Hulk Hogan. It was constantly talking tough and this tough macho thing. If that happened here in Detroit at that level with a woman, if they had somebody with that toxic masculinity, I would say a woman's not going to win. But short of that, I mean, like Mike Rogers isn't like a world federation wrestler. So Alyssa Slotkin held her own there. But I think Donald Trump is once in a lifetime. In our politics, we'll never see in our lifetime with Donald Trump.
But you know what? We had a woman named Irma Henderson who became the first Black council president, and she constantly outperformed when it came to elections, Coleman Young and everybody else. So when she decided to run for mayor, I don't know why she listened to those people around her. She finished dead last with 6 people ahead of her. 4 of them nobody knew, but people just didn't want to elect her mayor. Now she can stay on the council. She can do this. You elect a woman to the Senate. You can elect them governors, but are they ready to get elected to the highest office? Now we haven't had Hillary Clinton, and now we had Vice President Harris. Now they're pushing, what's her name, Whitmer. I don't see her moving mountains.
So I had people. We've even had a guest on this show, woman, female, who indicated, listen, if I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, she's a Caucasian woman. I'm Black. I'm not voting for this Black woman. I'm voting for Donald Trump. She told me straight up, for Donald Trump. So when you talk about, women supporting women, that's not necessarily true. I think it depends on who the candidate is. I think it depends on the message and whether or not you're going to have enough men pushing that candidate. If you don't have enough male support, you might as well.
But Jim, you in Florida, you saw the aftermath of the hurricane down there. Who are they? Are they blaming Biden?
I haven't talked to
Or
anybody
just blaming
about the weather. They're blaming Biden for everything. They're blaming the voters for everything. How about we let the voters decide who the president should be and support them and who they select?
Absolutely.
Allan made a comment a little earlier about the Constitution. Nobody attacked the Constitution like the Biden-Harris administration. They attacked the First Amendment by censoring speech. They attacked the Second Amendment every single day of their administration. Then you go to the Fourth Amendment. The vice president said in San Francisco, well, you can have a gun, but I'm going to come in your house. That's kind of the Fourth Amendment, the right against illegal search and seizure. They lost because they're bad candidates. Why don't we get it through our head? It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has to do with her being a bad candidate. People voted against her and not for Trump.
Jim.
Absolutely. By the way, they should have paid a lot of attention to the 25th Amendment, and maybe they wouldn't be here.
But I'm going to say this.
You're right.
And the fact that she was a female. I'm sorry, it wasn't just one thing.
I don't believe that.
But you know what? But I'm gonna say this: Barack Obama, black man, won the popular vote twice.
Right.
Hillary Clinton didn't win the presidency, but she won the popular vote. And we keep trying to point to excuses other than the fact that Kamala Harris just sucked. She was a terrible.
She didn't get the popular vote. She got her ass kicked.
Well, Joe Biden was losing. Joe Biden was losing. He's a white male. So how do you make sense of that then?
Well, he was in a coma. He was in a coma the last 3 months. So that's what it makes sense.
If anyone saw Jake Tapper if you saw Jake Tapper in front of that big map, and I forget who he was with, and someone they were going to show on the map where Harris outperformed Joe Biden, and there was not a single county in all of America in which she outperformed. So that includes very liberal bastions. And I'll tell you what, if you go look at the major liberal concentrations, they all moved right 10 to 20 points. Chicago, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Miami, Philadelphia, Detroit.
Well, Trump built a red wall and he knocked the blue walls down and built his own red wall. And he gunned the Democrats in their own backyard while the Democrats was courting Dick and Liz Cheney and all the other Republicans that was mad at Trump and the other party leaders. He was
immediately were no longer Nazis once they
supported let me say something. I want to push back here.
Right.
Some of the stuff. First of all, look, she was brought in at the last minute. It took her a while. I thought the last 3-4 weeks she finally hit her
last couple of weeks.
She hit her stride. She was not. Donald Trump had already gone through one campaign already. She was asked at the last minute to step forward. I didn't love her when she's at first, and I thought, all right, look, she's getting it. She was slow. She was avoiding the press, and she was worried about everything she said. She got caught up between when she was on The View and they said, would you do anything differently? And she said, I can't think of anything.
But how are you not prepared for the most obvious question?
Yeah, right. I agree. She was not. It took her a while. She was slow to the draw initially. But Donald Trump, the things that resonated, I talked to some voters, the transgender ads were like, which I found so bigoted. At the end, it says, Kamala Harris is for they and them. Donald Trump's for you. And
that was my favorite ad right there.
Well, I always say, okay.
Is that the one where the guys put on the mascara? That was the one.
It was like, okay. It'd be like, Kamala Harris is for Donald Trump is for you. I mean, we're talking about a group of people. I'm sorry, you can dehumanize these people, but they are people, they are citizens, and they were dehumanized into.
And a lot of them, but a lot of them voted for Donald Trump, led by Bruce or whatever his name is, Jenner or whatever. Listen, the bottom line.
But at the end of the day, the reality is the people have spoken.
I'm not
Donald
saying
Trump.
that doesn't mean because they've elected a guy who's basically convicted in a civil procedure of rape, who January 6th was part of the
rape.
Yeah, I mean, so the
Crime.
people have spoken and the
Rape
people
is a
have
crime.
said, well,
Rape
hold
is
on.
a crime.
The people have
So
said,
don't. It's propaganda.
I'm sorry.
Rape is a crime.
Say what?
Rape is a crime.
I can't hear you.
He said rape is a crime.
Yes.
Not civil.
Rape is a crime. Okay. And January 6th was
Okay.
a crime also.
Well, let's take a
All the
break.
guys
We'll
like
come back.
Lindsey Graham, who screamed and said, "This is it. I am out. I've had enough of this."
Now they with it. Now they with him. Well, let's take a break and we'll come back and continue the conversation. Let's go take a break.
We got to acknowledge our viewers.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We are back.
We're back. Detroit Black and White. Thank you for watching. Those that are watching, we thank you so much. We have a Facebook user. We want to thank you for all your comments. I read the first part. I think he said, "I don't take orders. I barely take suggestions. I don't laugh when nothing is funny. I don't scratch if it don't itch. People don't like that from a woman." Wow, thank you, Facebook user.
And
also,
when you say, I'm curious when he says people don't like that from a woman, is that they don't like to be told?
he might be talking about me because I said I don't like taking orders.
Oh, well,
I don't like being told.
curious if he doesn't like
I
taking
don't
orders,
like taking, no,
particularly from women,
That's
or
probably why I'm single. But anyway, that's probably.
Now let's get back. Let's get back to. Go ahead, Vanessa.
I also want to acknowledge Jill Sheridan. Jill logs on every time we're on. Jill, thank you so much for your comment. I can't remember what it was, but if they bring it back up, we will acknowledge it.
all right.
Okay, so we were talking about.
We were talking about it, and just I wanted to go to the Constitution and all that, but let's talk about the media information silos. Yeah, we can talk about that, but I just want to say when it comes to the Constitution, I am very, very fearful of Donald Trump firing the FBI director, getting a stooge in the Justice Department to run the Justice Department, and there's no checks and balances left.
Well, Biden had a stooge in the Justice Department.
No,
The Attorney General is a stooge. He's a stooge. He took his damn time. He did. Listen, that's why he's not on the Supreme fucking Court. He's a stooge.
You know what? Let me say about the Attorney General. The reason that he initially did not want to charge Donald Trump with any of those crimes is because he wanted to get away from the political craziness that the previous Justice Department had. So he was avoiding it. But after the House Congressional Committee had those hearings on the January 6th and all that, he had no choice. They basically laid out a criminal indictment for him, and he was forced to do it, and he was late. He should have done it way earlier, and he was very wimpy about it. He was criticized.
Yeah.
With those positions, aren't those political positions? It depends on who's in the White House, and they make the call. So they're political positions. I don't care what you say.
Well, Nixon had a whole crew of crooks working for him. John Mitchell, Heidelman, all those crooks. So we have been to this dance before, and we saw what happened. You know, when people get enough is enough, you know that changes will be made. We got a midterm election 2 years from now. Let's see what the people do. And
Right.
you know, right now the Republicans in control. Let's see what they do. Barack Obama had the House and the Senate, and what did they get done? The affordable health care. That's about it.
Yes, but you know what? I'm hopeful that because you know you want to. We're competitive by nature, so you want to see real competition, right? This was a blowout. I'm sorry. This was. It was like as if the VP didn't even run. It was a blowout. So
well, she took everybody down the slate. She took them all down. It's like dominoes. Boom.
So is the party, the Democratic Party, have they now made a plan and has started executing that plan on Wednesday?
No, they didn't fire Jamie Harrison. They did not fire Jamie Harrison.
Jamie Harrison he hasn't done enough for the party. He hasn't shown enough leadership there. You know, it's like
and they had somebody. They had somebody, Allan. They had Stacey Abrams. They could have made her the chair. Yeah. She could have. She know how to mobilize voters.
Jamie was the most invisible DNC chairman of my life. I mean, you always know who the chairman of the two parties are. If you had asked me 3 months ago, and I knew Jamie, we worked on the Hill together 20 years ago. If you had asked me who the DNC chairman was even a month ago, I couldn't have told you because I forgot he became the DNC chairman.
Well, H.G. Wells wrote a book about Jamie Harrison, the Invisible Man.
2004, it was interesting. I was at the Washington Post, and one of my podmates turned to me after Kerry lost, and he said, maybe we need to be more like Republicans and be anti-abortion. And I said, well, what's the use of having two parties if you both try to be exactly the same? And Howard Dean came in and doubled down on what it was to be a Democrat and strengthened the Democratic message. He was a great Democratic leader there. And I agree.
Well, and he had a 50-state strategy, too. He invested in states that the DNC never did because both parties focus on the battlegrounds and ignore all the rest. And to Dean's credit, he said, we're going to go fight in all 50 states.
Right. So, so somebody wanted to talk about the media, which has been, this campaign was particularly interesting, like Joe Rogan and all these podcasters played a role. And it's really, to me, it's like, okay, the New York Times did a great job of coverage, but who's paying attention except for, it's the echo chamber there. Nothing was going beyond that. And so here we have these podcasters and on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And we're not really getting facts from there. We're just getting a lot of propaganda and bullshit. And yet people are saying that's the way to go now. That's a new information silo.
Well, what are we doing? What are we doing, Allan? We shooting the shit.
Propaganda.
You're undermining this podcast right now.
No, we're trying to be. We're not.
No, I'm not a journalist.
The election's over.
The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, or anything like that. The bottom line is this: we know. I am one of those people. I listen on Sirius Radio, but I don't watch the news like I used to. You know what? I watch podcasts. I watch all different
Detroit
podcasts.
in black and white.
And most of the public, that is where they've moved. Even after Tuesday, I talked to people that said, no, I don't watch the news. I watch YouTube. and I watch all these different shows. So
Well, and I'm gonna tell you what, no one should be held more accountable for Donald Trump's rise and perpetuation than the mainstream media.
exactly.
I was Marco Rubio's spokesman on his presidential race in 2016. So I would basically do a half dozen TV interviews every single day across the cables and the network. Never once, not one single time was I ever asked about Marco Rubio. I was asked about Donald Trump every single time, because for these dying mediums, they wanted the clicks, they wanted the eyeballs, they wanted the subscriptions. So they perpetuated stuff that got the attraction. They covered the car crash, they covered the car crash, they covered the car crash. Then after he won, and I think they helped elevate him because they never thought he could win. Then he won. And the chaos surrounding him they were an accelerant on it, because it kept people tuning into CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all these shows. And then, I mean, we have been gaslit so many times. Yeah. COVID, we got gaslit, we got shamed. If you were on the conservative side of how you viewed COVID, you were ostracized, you were mocked, you were humiliated. And guess what? As we got past all that, we found out that what we were getting from the government and the media was bullshit. And so you've got a lot of resentment at the mainstream media. The Russiagate thing, I would talk to reporters on background that would call about Russiagate. And I'm no Trump defender. I don't like the guy, never defend him. I try to just say this is truth and this is not. Right. But when they're like, well, someone handed him a dossier, and I'm like, listen, I'm a political consultant. I don't give a shit who handed me that dossier. I would accept it. It's up to me to verify the truthfulness of it. But the idea that it's treasonous to accept opposition research and find out the whole thing was manufactured, and there's no accountability. There's no one's held accountable for this. But the gaslighting the last 2 months makes everything that preceded it child's play. I mean, I watch CNN regularly. I don't want to watch NBC's nuttiness. I don't want to watch Fox's nuttiness. But CNN is off the rails on misinformation. And that's the problem. We are choosing, who is the ones that are circulating misinformation and exclude ourselves from it. That's not how it works, because right now, no one on the left apparently is involved in misinformation or disinformation, and everyone on the right is. That's the narrative out there.
Right, and when you say accountability, you're absolutely correct, because when you're wrong, they don't say, okay, we were wrong, let me retract this is wrong. No, they just keep going on. We're going to move on to the next cycle, the next story. And people are tired of that.
I don't know if that's
people
always
are tired
true.
of that.
I don't know, but let me address.
We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, quite a few. Look, first of all, I'll agree with you on the coverage of Trump. I left the Post in 2000. I took about 2008. Yes, and so
that's what's in that wall.
yeah, you got it. And so the papers were losing. The Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, they were losing their mojo. There was no, it was in crisis. Journalism was in crisis, and so with the internet, the podcasts, everything that's happening, and I'll say podcasts are great. But people shouldn't rely only on podcasts as their only form of information. But
the mainstream media bullshit you too. All of it, and they got caught with their pants down. Now they surrendered to Donald Trump. They pulled their endorsements of Harris, LA Times, the Washington Post. Yeah, they need to just go home, shut the fucking doors, because Joe Rogan is the man, and all other these assholes is calling it.
So what I was going to say is that when Trump started running, he's an entertainer. He grabs every news cycle. He's there. He's fascinating. He's a crazy man. He's a insulting person. And he garnered a lot of attention. And the Washington Post, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN got their mojo back because they were seen as chronicling what he was doing and shining a light on him. At the same time, they were giving him endless publicity, as you point out. But as far as Russiagate, I am still, maybe I'm a diehard here, but when I see people like Roger Stone and people talking, and the other guy, I can't remember who was
Manafort. Paul
Manafort, when they were having contact with the Russians and providing like updates on stuff like that. I'm not saying Trump was involved in this manipulation and stuff, but it wasn't, you know, and a lot of the people went, you know, when the Mueller report came out, some of it was those guys would prefer to go to jail rather than disclose any information. So we don't know the whole story there, but there was contact with the Russians during the campaigns, and they met.
Well, and don't you have to admit, Allan? Don't you have to admit that your former colleagues, your former journalists, they had dropped the ball. In the last 4 years, they have dropped the fucking ball. And they don't expose some of the shit. Well, because they let, you know what? Now, if that was Barack Obama that lost in court 4 times, indicted all over the place, women coming out saying he did this and did that to him, do you think that they would let it go like they let Trump go? Look at Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or whatever you want to call him. The shit, they own his ass like white on rice. He ain't getting a pass.
The Democrats they're self-punishing. We've got Al Franken. Al Franken, what he did, I mean,
that seems like nothing now.
It pales in comparison.
Right.
Really minimal. They pushed him out.
And they hungry. They hungry.
The Republicans would have never pushed out Al Franken if he were senator. They were
well, they got Max Gates. What's the guy in Florida? That liked the young girls? Max, yeah,
that's
right. He's still there. He's still there.
Concluded yet? That there's still shoes to drop on that.
Before Franken didn't even get to trial before they kicked him out.
He just took some inappropriate.
There was no trial. There were no criminal charges
and
to
I'm
be
sure
had.
almost everybody is taking inappropriate criminals, right?
It's not all.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break, and we come back and conclude our segment.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
I love teaching others because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a 9th grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
All right, we are back.
Back in Detroit, like
Back.
In our final stretch of Detroit Black and
Final
White.
thoughts?
Bird, what if Barack Obama was tied to Jeffrey Epstein like Trump was? So that is that person's question. What if?
I think the Democrats have a different. I mean, with Trump, there's nothing he can do, particularly now if the House and the Senate. There's absolutely nothing he can do now that he'll ever be impeached. I mean, and I would say short of murder, but
Impeach impeach don't mean shit anymore. He been impeached twice. So what?
Right.
For political reasons.
Information about that.
They didn't like the power he possessed. That's the only reason he was impeached. Why?
No, he was just a he just a damn fool. That's why he was impeached.
Okay.
But he was impeached. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Why don't
What did you say, Jim?
I said he was impeached by a Democratic
See?
Jim's
legislature?
audio is not.
Right. That's the deal. Democrats telling me he can't talk. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cutting out.
Okay,
All
he
right.
cutting out.
All right.
Right.
Jim, we're going to
well, anyway,
agree with me.
go ahead.
Oh, I already know that's not true.
Well, let's go. Let's go to our final.
We have 8 minutes.
our final-
9 minutes.
All right.
It don't matter.
Final thoughts, but go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, my final thought. My final thought is. My final thought is that with this upcoming mayor's race, we're gonna see. Man, it's gonna be as crazy as the presidential race, because we're gonna have about 10 people jockeying for the final 2 spots, and we got 2 women. Yeah.
Duggan's supposed to make an announcement about his future coming forward. What do you think that announcement is?
Well, he's saying he's not going to run for another term, but he's not going to announce that he's running for governor, not just yet.
I want to say something in terms of, this election has been, we had Black students all around the country, including in Michigan, who got texts from obviously racist saying, you have to report to the plantation for cotton picking. We saw in 2016, right after Trump got elected, we had students in Royal Oak chanting to Hispanic students in the Royal Oak Middle School saying, build the wall, build the wall. They had to bring in like social workers to deal with the students and stuff like that. I think the messaging here, not for, for some, is that wink, wink, let's make America clean again. Let's get rid of the immigrants. We've got too many immigrants. And, it's really, I'm not saying for everybody, but for some of the people.
We can start with his wife and in-laws if he want to get rid of the immigrants.
Yeah, I think that's his point.
That texting thing is grotesque. But you know what? That could be one person. We have no idea what it is. There's one idiot doing some stupid shit. But here's the reality. The Democratic platform or its strategy this last election was to pit white people against Black people, men against women, Hispanics against white people. Everything was pitting every class together, and it'd be nice. I mean, you could say a lot of things about Trump, and I'm not a Trump defender, but he did not pit ethnic groups against each other. He used rhetoric that people applied their own values to, but he did not go out and say negative. I mean, he got 46% of the Latino vote, the highest of any Republican ever. He got probably the highest Black vote in modern times. Everyone's now saying, women that hate other women are voting for him. When you look at the demographic performance within these minority groups, they all move his way.
Because people aren't listening, they aren't paying attention, they don't care.
No, because they actually care about the cost of living, the cost of groceries, the cost. And they know when you start calling someone a Nazi, that's when you know that team, the other side, has run out of ideas, that they are reverting.
Well, they overwhelmed us with abortion. They overwhelmed us with abortion.
The worst interpretation of what he said, what they say he said. He said, "I wish I had generals as loyal as those guys." He didn't praise Nazism. He didn't praise Hitler.
Right? Yeah.
But no one else verified it. One guy said it, and everyone else that was around him and on that guy's staff said that was never said. But this is where the media has lost their way. They just lean into anything that they can hang around.
A guy who's a general.
Let me say this.
He had credibility. John Kelly had more credibility than Donald Trump did.
Let me say this.
Honestly.
President-elect Trump.
Let me say this, though.
President-elect Trump.
As I said earlier, the Democratic Party made a big mistake. You don't tell us what to do. People do not like being told what to do. People like real options and feel like they're making their own decisions. So you can talk about what you're talking about, saying all these things about the Latino vote, the black vote. It comes from the fact that we don't want you telling us what the heck to do.
And the chickens have come home to roost for the Democratic Party. Malcolm X said, chickens coming home to roost don't make them sad, they make them glad. And that's what happened when you got Black Lives activists supporting Trump. You got everybody. You had a little bit of everybody supporting Trump. Hey, just face it. Democrats played their usual hand every 4 years. It wasn't a winning hand this time. They got smacked. Now they got to go and regroup. First thing they need to do is get rid of Invisible Man and some others. Clyburn need to retire all those assholes. Pelosi need to go back home and take care of her husband, and we need new leadership in the party, young leadership.
But how dare you tell this woman what she needs to do? She needs to go home and take care of her husband.
Yeah, she 99 years old.
Okay.
The bitch is 99.
Yeah, Adolph,
She's 99.
Stop it.
Mongo for mayor.
See, we can unite the right and left right here on
Mongo for mayor.
Let's do it, Adolph.
Mongo.
What's your final thought, Jim?
I have no platform. I think the Democrats lust for total control over the American people is what cost them this election. Donald Trump didn't win this election. The Democrats lost this election.
And listen, I agree with you 100%, Jim. You're absolutely right. And it was a vote against Joe Biden and everybody else on the Democratic side. Jamie.
My final thought is this: just as after the 2000 election, well, there's another consultant named Jamie. Handsome.
Right. It's Jason.
Jason.
Democrats abandoned gun control after 2000 and Al Gore's loss. I think Democrats are going to abandon abortion as an issue because they dedicated about 70% of their advertising to scaring the shit out of people dishonestly about abortion policy, and it failed. There's not one candidate in America that lost an election over abortion. Ballot proposals passed overwhelmingly to codify abortion rights. No one lost an election on abortion, no matter how much they spent of the $2 to $3 billion they spent.
If there is a general and the Project 2025. Yes, 2025. If that is suddenly they're talking about Project 2025.
They talked about that. They 70% was abortion and 30% was 2025.
Now it's real, and they are going to use that.
Oh, Project 2025. Did you read that?
No one did. No one read it.
Exactly.
Someone did.
And it's mostly
Did you read
mainstream
it?
conservative thought. But because there was a
listened to what
title, everyone
listen to
just
what
wrapped
people
around
I
bunch
read
of negativity.
So
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Roe, and congratulations again. We don't get women final thoughts on this. You need to be in the kitchen cooking up some victuals. Go ahead.
Goodbye, and I'm gonna go take a nap, okay? But
Hey, bless
I
up,
want to
Kit.
thank everyone that is watching this show. We have a really good time on this show every week. We're here 3 days a week. Thank you so much for watching. I want everybody to go out and have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Check in on us on Wednesday evening at 8:30 p.m.
Hey, go Lions.
Well, Lions. We can agree on that.
I disagree.
That's a starting point.
What?
No.
Come on.
It happens to be my favorite.
Well. Anyway, Mr. Roe, you can have another Bloody Mary on me. Tell Bob.
All right.
Put it on my account. I got an account there at McShane.
I'm getting this. I'm getting this. All right.
Okay.
All right.